I am thankful to live in Port Angeles, Washington, and get out to the Pacific Coast often through work or recreation. I love living here. The beauty is unmatched, and the amazing people who care for this place. It's great to live amongst them. The peace and solitude that I can find out at the beach and in the mountains here is it, it's unmatched, and I'm really thankful to be able to live in such a beautiful and special place. So Washington CoastSavers is a program of the Washington Clean Coast Alliance, and we were formed in 2007 to coordinate marine debris cleanup efforts that agencies, organizations, and individuals have been conducting independently along Washington's coast as far back as 1971. We are underneath the National Marine Sanctuary Foundation as our fiscal sponsor, and we are currently working under a grant through Sea Grant. We do the annual cleanup efforts and have expanded those efforts into special cleanups, working with the different coastal treaty tribes as well as Olympic National Park. We do outreach specifically this year with Nia Bay High School, and then we have been working to map the marine debris within Olympic National Park to help them as a management tool to be able to understand, identify, and work to remove the marine debris within the coastal wilderness of Olympic National Park.
Cool.
This is the first film that I've worked on. I've been more into photography, but now, it's easy for all of us. Practically everyone has the ability to take a great video, which can sometimes just mean being in the right place at the right time. And for me, I've been spending a lot of time taking photos and videos of marine debris to help illustrate the issue, as well as to help people see the impacts of it. A lot of times, when people are walking or hiking along the Olympic coast, they see the beauty, of course, is, outshining everything. But once you take a closer look, up in the drift logs or back behind those logs on the back beach, you get to see, a different picture, and it just sort of changes your perspective of things once you sort of tune into the amount of marine debris that's there. The experience that we had with removing the South Sandpoint cache, I jumped into that. I did that cleanup less than 4 months after I started working there, and was thankful again to have that connection with Olympic National Park to be able to pull off the permissions that I needed, as well as the partnership to complete that effort. So it was really great to have that known quantity, and that's a thing that became an issue with the recycling effort, was that we needed that known quantity, and to be able to put all of those wheels in motion. And we found that on the Olympic Peninsula, we're very unique as far as accessing the beach, the regulations with the Wilderness Act, the different regulations that the coastal treaty tribes have, and to be able to get all of those things moving and put them all in one direction and be able to accomplish that was really great. Of course, I did learn a lot, like I do with everything that I organize or coordinate for the first time. There's always that hindsight of thinking we could do things better, but really looking back at that cleanup, it was very successful. All the people who came in came out. We didn't have any injuries. We removed the cache. The park was a great partner, and we actually had to hike the cache. Each person hiked 2 miles to Lake Ozette, and then the Park Service, as well as a volunteer, had their boat out, and then we were boating things across the lake. So there were many components, many working parts of that cleanup, and we were really thankful that we were able to be successful in that. Yeah, certainly marine debris, is an issue. And of course, not just, for how unsightly it is, and how much it changes the character of wilderness, but for, like you mentioned, the ecosystems. We see, things like styrofoam. It's really hard to see that out in the coastal wilderness because, as everyone knows, if once you start handling styrofoam, everything is literally just breaking down, right before your eyes. And then, plastics is a problem, and it is a big problem. We see it breaking down and making microplastics. We see it, entering our food chain. They talk about how it's actually in all of us. It's entered, our bloodstreams and things like that. So of course, yeah, plastics is a huge problem, and for the coast, the removal is a big issue as well, with the majority of the Olympic coast being within Olympic National Park. The Wilderness Act does have a lot of constraints to the things that you can do, and that's why I've been working with the park to get permissions to do things outside of the Wilderness Act so that we can have an impact in removing those things. And then looking and seeing the mapping project is important too, because we're not just seeing what's there, but we're also looking at reaccumulation rates. Are there areas that are sort of hot spots for accumulation that we should be looking at? Talking about, working for a future with the park where we can partner on more regular cleanups, so that the beaches can stay clean, and that we can work on, having a healthy ecosystem there. There's also issues with invasive species, issues with, resuspension and then navigational hazards. There's issues with entanglement. And so unfortunately, the plastics and marine debris issue is quite layered. And it's not just that it's, unsightly and taking away from our wilderness experience. It really is having a great impact to the environment there. And then I just want to also add, we do see that we have seen an increase in visitation to the park and within the coastal wilderness. And it certainly has impacted it as far as, it being loved to death. We see a lot of folks doing things like, improper sanitation and improper food storage, leading to, animal habituation and that type of thing. So there's just a lot of layers to it. And then I think, another issue that I do want to mention that I think is important, just having gone to a lot of these smaller communities on the coast, is different things like financial and food insecurities, having fresh foods and things like that. Is something that, I think a lot of us that live in more populated areas really take for granted. And that's certainly something that I'm seeing is just the access to real fresh food. And one thing that, not necessarily on the Olympic Peninsula, but on other beaches that are a little bit different, like we talked, like the Central and South Coast, where visitation is a bit different, access is different. Food wrappers is a big part of what people are finding in cleanups. So that's another thing where, people aren't having as much access to whole foods, so they're eating stuff like, chips and whatever, and we're finding that type of stuff on the beach as what I would call shoreline debris, as opposed to marine debris, where, beach goers or people who are living closer to the coast are, those things are kind of getting out or getting away from them and ending up within that coastal ecosystem.